technically speaking, we haven't truly entered phase two of the banana zone yet. We've just picked up the banana again.
That's right. It'll be when Bitcoin breaks its new highs, which I think is probably next week, because we get to the top, we consolidate a bit, and then it goes, and then everything goes. And the banana zone really won't kick in the terms of the way that people think, where everybody's getting hilariously rich and all sorts of stuff, probably until Solana breaks all-time highs. Because that's people's biggest bag, really, is Solana. And that needs to happen. Then risk gets recycled out the curve, because people do simple maths, and everybody's going to do it. Oh, they start saying, okay, maybe Bitcoin goes to 300,000 this cycle, let's say. So therefore, it's got a 3x from here. And then they're like, oh, but Solana could do a 5x from here, and Sui could do a 10x from here. And before you know it, everybody rushes out the risk curve, because it's later in the cycle and they want to capture as much gains as possible.
After breaking past the $100,000 mark last week, Bitcoin has struggled to maintain momentum above the six-figure threshold. While its valuation remains impressive, recent price action has shown signs of fatigue. Much of this sluggishness has been attributed to intense selling pressure in the derivatives market, casting uncertainty over short-term movements. However, on-chain data continues to show bullish signals, suggesting that Bitcoin still has room to climb. Raoul, CEO of Real Vision, reignited optimism in a recent interview, claiming we're on the verge of crypto's next major phase, but the real surge hasn't begun. According to Pell, Bitcoin hasn't yet entered the banana zone, a term he uses to describe the euphoric stage where prices skyrocket and investor sentiment turns frenzied. He believes a definitive breakout past Bitcoin's all-time high will trigger a psychological shift, setting off a rotation of capital from Bitcoin into large-cap altcoins like Solana, followed by a broader market rally. Pell's market cycle analysis points to an incoming wave of altcoin speculation driven by Bitcoin's stability at higher levels. This shift could inject fresh liquidity into the market and spark an explosive rally across the crypto ecosystem. While Bitcoin currently treads water, the groundwork is being laid for a potential supercycle, the kind that sends the entire space into overdrive as the banana zone finally takes hold.
What's funny to me is we've kind of proven that liquidity is 90% of the price movement of crypto and 97.5% of the NASDAQ. So it is the dominant macro factor, but people don't want to believe it. And because like global M2 leads by 3 months, what happened is in Q4, global liquidity was draining because the dollar went up and rates went up and etc. And so that has the knock-on effect in Q1. And then what everybody does is apply narrative in Q1. It's the tariffs, the world's we're going to the recession. It was nothing to do with that. It was just the liquidity. So it's kind of like, yeah, it was this easy. Now, what it will do, it will decouple at some point. And normally it decouples in the bull phase of the cycle and then the full bear phase, because that's when fear and greed take over. And like the FOMO part of it is when network adoption increases massively. And it starts breaking away from M2, which is why it only has a 90% correlation, not 100%. So I think we'll see that now. And it's just saying now is, if this continues to play out, it's just banana zone from now until July. And then we've had, if we've got to think 3 months in advance. So what we've had is the dollar correcting the last couple of weeks, rates correcting. So we should see the market correct in August.
Yeah.
And maybe it's as simple as that. And that would be very consistent with previous cycles as well. Everyone's scratching their head saying, why has gold been doing so well and crypto hasn't? And I thought, I know there's going to be a simple answer to this. It's not going to be some complex thing. And in the last GMI, I figured out that all gold does is follow financial conditions, which lead. So it's kind of real time. And then crypto follows with a 3-month lag. So it's like, oh, I get it now. So gold is just representing the fact that financial conditions, and we define financial conditions as the dollar, rates, and oil. Those are the kind of big daddies of it. Once they start moving, gold moves. So gold has been correcting somewhat because they've started to correct. And so gold is actually leading this because it just is real-time financial conditions, while Bitcoin and crypto and NASDAQ is just lagged by 3 months. It's as simple as that. I'm like, I can't believe it. I put out a tweet at the actual peak of Bitcoin dominance and said, I think dominance has peaked. I think it has. It's the right point in the cycle. It's this part in the banana zone when it happens. It usually happens after this first correction. So if that's right, and let's say Bitcoin goes from 100K to 150K for easy maths, then if you look at the performance of the other tokens, you can kind of impute what happens is that Sui probably does 3x that. So Bitcoin dominance, generally when it falls, it is the start of the silly season. I mean, that's, obviously, by definition, it means that other tokens are outperforming Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin's going up, which we're still going up, then what we should see is that. So I think, we've had a little correction in Bitcoin dominance, went from 62 back to 63. It'll top out again and then move lower. And that next move, people will really start to see it. And I think that's the move when Bitcoin goes through all-time highs and everything else goes completely bananas. So here's the same kind of period in 2021. So it happened in Jan that time around.
Yeah.
That drop went from 70-something% down to 38% in a few months.
That's crazy.
Right, that's alt season. We saw it here back in 2017, which I think is a very similar one. It started like in Feb 17. That went from 95 to 35.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Bitcoin dominance over time is falling. So the peaks are always less.
Lower highs.
The lows seem to be roughly equal, but it suggests to us that we should come somewhere back down here. And it happens fast. It happens in 2, 3, 4 months. My bet has been, as you know, sweet because it's outperformed everything.
Yeah.
It just keeps going up, correcting, going up, correcting, going up, correcting. So it does all the right things. It outperforms all of the time. And I don't see any reason why that's going to stop. People argue a lot about, low free float VC tokens. People don't understand a simple fact is that a low free float in a bull market goes up more. Yeah. Anybody who's ever traded emerging markets knows this. And that's what happens. And in a bear market, they get killed more. It's as simple as that, because you've got less available supply and a lot of demand because there's a lot of attention on Sui and other things like this. And so it tends to work really, really well. This is the Solana Sui chart. If I look at it on a weekly basis.
Introducing the all-new Ledger Flex. Your next level crypto wallet is here. Sleek, premium, powerful. The Ledger Flex delivers a solid, high-end feel with smooth edges for a more comfortable grip, and that satisfying nostalgic sound you didn't know you missed. Still clicking away in your old Nano S? It's time to upgrade and lock in your crypto gains with style this bull run. Smooth, modern design, built for serious profit. Click the link below to grab your exclusive Ledger Flex. Ditch the rest, go Ledger Flex.
It broke out of this basing pattern. It flagged, consolidated. My guess is the next move breaks through all of this. And so that tells us that Sui is still the fastest horse in the race.
Yeah.
ETH, different question, because I think it can play catch up. But if we look at this, it just looks like it's flagging here again. And the next move is again the move where we should see a dramatic outperformance of Sui versus Sol. And that's, I really simplify everything, because if we've got one dominant factor, and the dominant factor being liquidity, therefore everything is correlated. So therefore, just do one chart against the other and choose the strongest asset without going too far out the risk curve. But basically, this is a flag pattern. When this goes, ETH has its next move up, wherever it goes to. That's a shocking chart if this plays out, because it will change everybody's narrative again about ETH. I still think ETH from here, could it outperform Solana? It's possible. It's possible. Just because what I think is coming is, as the financial system comes, you don't get fired for building on ETH. My idea is ETH is Microsoft. I've never been to a bank, an insurance company, a large corporate that has Apple Macs. It's all on Microsoft. Why? Because it's an operating system that everybody can use, and you can hire people, fire people, bring in new people, and they don't have to learn something new. But if you were to build the entire financial system on Sui, everyone has to learn a move language. There's less number of developers. It's not had the Lindy effects that ETH has. Now, also the banks love a layer 2 because they feel like they've got control over certain things, but it still has the finality of settlement to the layer 1. So I think ETH is probably going to shock people going forwards. But, XRP looks like it will too, and so does Doge. So it's kind of like everything's correlated.
Yeah.
But if we can break that high, if we can break that, let's say 4,300 high, it's going to really explode. I think we do have an NFT season.
Yeah.
Somewhat different than the last. I think what we're seeing is a current bifurcation. One is Web3 consumer-based brands being built, and we'll talk about what you guys are doing.
Yep.
But that's Doodles, Pudgy Penguins, all of that, right? And that still seems to be capturing mind share. Then we've got the art side, which seems to be doing well. Then we've got the PFP side, which there are a few projects that will survive. And Punks, going to the hands of Mickey Malko, is a good friend of mine, is amazing news. I managed to get the head of the Sui Foundation over drinks one night in Dubai at 11 o'clock at night to get a punk. I said, the reality is you cannot be in the space and having been reasonably successful without owning a punk, right? It's like it's a rite of passage. Yeah. And so, I think punks probably get to a floor price of $500,000 this cycle, just because there's a lot of OGs who haven't yet bought them.
Bitcoin's price has spent much of the week hovering just below the $14,000 to $15,000 range, a level many analysts view as a significant resistance zone. But there's a twist to this narrative. Rather than being stuck, some suggest Bitcoin is simply consolidating within a classic bull flag formation, potentially setting the stage for a powerful breakout. According to Raoul, the current sideways movement could be the calm before the storm, with Bitcoin preparing for the next explosive leg of its rally once it breaks above trendline resistance. This so-called phase of indecision is often misunderstood. While the dip in buying volume has raised concerns, it may be less about fading interest and more about traders waiting for the right catalyst. The recent surge from $74,400 to $105,900 was fueled by massive liquidations and record inflows into spot Bitcoin ETFs, momentum strong enough to justify the current cooldown. After a 40% run-up, a temporary pause in upward momentum is not only natural but expected. With most of the immediate sell-side pressure already absorbed, some analysts believe a sharp pullback to around $100,000 or even $90,000 could act as the perfect setup for a final breakout. In their view, a short-term dip might provide the fuel needed for Bitcoin to make a decisive move higher, pushing past current resistance and into uncharted territory.
I know we've talked about this in the past. I think Crypto Dick Butts is another one. You're either an OG and understand it or you don't. And there's only 5,600 of them there. They're 1 ETH, 1 ETH 25. I just do not see a world that these are not 10 ETH, because they're so important to the space. Because you kind of know, right? Everybody's got a dick butt. You're like, yeah, you get this space. It's like a mini punk.
Yeah.
So I do think we'll see PFP projects maintaining value, certain ones that have Lindy effects. And I think that's good too. I think what Xcopy has done is so amazing because he's got such a broad spread of assets that people can buy, from Max Payne and Friends as a PFP, which is cheap, through to the one of ones, and people can participate throughout his ecosystem. So I do think the art stuff continues as well. So, and then we're going to see somebody do something breakout, which is somewhere between I still think a hybrid idea behind memes and what NFTs actually use as technology. People aren't using NFT technology much yet. They're just using it still for pictures, but there's a lot I think will happen. So I think the NFT space is going to get interesting. And I think some of it will be on Solana. We've seen a bunch of stuff migrate across to Sui as well, because they're faster throughputs, so they're more like memes in that way. But we'll also see stuff accrue on ETH. So I think it's a broad mix. If we go back to the financial way of looking at it, if we think that chart of ETH might play out, which it breaks through the 4,300 level and then accelerates to 10K and beyond, right? So let's say ETH can triple from here or more, because if Bitcoin dominance is falling, and we think Bitcoin could go to 250 or 300, whatever the number, you choose your number, then ETH should outperform it. Money in ETH gets recycled into the ETH economy. So therefore the NFTs, even if they double, let's say ETH goes up 4x. If NFTs double, you might get an 8x on your trade. Okay, that's kind of interesting. Now, if you've got something like Meebs or Crypto Dick Butts that are 1 ETH, could they go to 5? Could they even go to 10 in a full, FOMO cycle? Yes. Okay, now you're talking some huge money. That's what people forget. And you and I have talked about this in the past. People forget about NFTs versus meme coins is NFTs have this multiplier effect.
Yeah.
They're a call option on that underlying chain. I kind of raise this a lot on Twitter to try and see where the pulse is, and people hate NFTs. They don't understand them. They don't really get it, and that makes me very interested.
Yeah,
because there is a Lindy effect of what survived will survive and thrive. We know what the Lindy effect is. Like Xcopy is Lindy effect, Beeple is Lindy effect. You know, a bunch of the generative art Lindy effect, and a bunch of these PFPs Lindy effects. So it's like I love that second cycle trade where they get jammed down, and you see what's got Lindy effect. Those things tend to wildly outperform. How I've done it over to justify how is like my big macro thesis is this space is a $3 trillion space today. I think it goes to $100 trillion in 10 years.
The market has entered that tense, breath-held moment, Bitcoin consolidating tightly just below $15,000. But this isn't a sign of indecision. It's the market gathering strength for its next major move. The formation of a classic bull flag pattern supports the view that Bitcoin is gearing up for another surge, aligning with Raoul Pal's outlook that liquidity cycles often precede crypto's most explosive rallies. While retail traders anxiously watch sideways price action, institutional investors continue accumulating through ETFs and corporate treasuries. On-chain data backs this up. Profit-taking remains well below historical cycle tops, indicating healthy consolidation rather than distribution. Beneath the surface, the setup grows stronger. Improving monetary conditions are creating a favorable backdrop for risk assets, including crypto. The $90,000 level now stands as a critical support zone, a place where weak hands may panic, but where seasoned investors are likely to reload. A decisive break above $15,000 would validate the bull flag pattern and likely spark a sharp, upward move. Meanwhile, altcoins wait in the wings, ready to explode once Bitcoin dominance begins to slip. The current lull is less a threat and more an opportunity for disciplined traders to position ahead of what could be a violent breakout. The combination of a strong technical setup and an improving macro environment points to one conclusion: the path of least resistance is upward. When this consolidation phase ends, the move could be rapid and relentless. This is not the time to hesitate. Weak hands see uncertainty, strong hands see opportunity. The real question isn't if Bitcoin will hit new highs, but whether you'll be ready when it does. The pieces are in place. Now we wait for the market to make its move. Will the banana zone arrive in July, or are we in for a longer pause? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.